To the max, Welcome to this episode of To the Max podcast. I'm super excited. I have Miss Shaunne Hall with me today. Remember, I'm Dr. Maxwell, 23 years of experience, and I've met a lot of amazing friends along the way. And we thought that we would get together and share with you some information that will help you as you go in your buildings to support children, not just from people who think they know, but for people who are practicing practitioners. So, Shaunne, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do we end up here today?
So, like she said, my name is Shaunne Hall. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
I love
all of our viewers today. So, been in education for 24 years. Administration, I feel like it's been 24 years, but not quite. It's been about 10 years of admin on this side of the world, Lord. I've gotten here because I love kids. I love what we can do for our kids. Giving them as many tools as they need in their toolbox, if they're going to use it then or if they're going to use it later.
Amen.
So that's who I am. I'm Shaunne the Tool Woman.
I love it. And Shaunne the Tool Woman. That's awesome because you talked about teaching kids skills in our last episode. We talked about social emotional learning, and it's all about that transference of skills. So your question is, what is your favorite line from what movie?
My favorite line from what movie?
So tell me your favorite movie and your favorite line.
Oh. My favorite movie is Color Purple.
Oh, God.
And my favorite line is,
oh,
you told Hoppo the Big B.
I love it. So my favorite one is The Color Purple.
Okay.
And my favorite line is, all my life I had to fight. You know, because we have to fight as women in leadership, especially women of color. Another one of my favorite lines from a movie, I love Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
And my favorite part is when Patrick Swayze comes and says, nobody puts baby in corner. Okay? Because I see myself as baby.
That's right.
And nobody gets to put me in a corner. And they don't get to put you in a corner either, right? So today we're talking all about restorative practices.
Okay.
What is restorative practices to you?
So restorative practices really just started with me in the school. So I've gotten these 3 years of experience. So restorative practices for me looks like bringing in the students and talking to them about their emotional connections with their peers, with adults in the building, outside of those buildings. You hope that those restorative practices and tools that you give the students helps them expand on their actual skills, their actual skill set in the community. So it's working with the students to understand the why behind, why are you so emotional right now?
So
why did you react? Yes. Why did you react right then?
The way you did.
The way you did.
Good.
A lot of times restorative practices allows the student to see it wasn't what that person did to them right then. It was what happened to them prior to coming into the building. It could have been something that's right. It could have been something that, spilled over from yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's something a lot of times with our students, it's things that they are dealing with that they should not have to deal with. Yeah. They are dealing with way too many adult actions and issues that cause them to not know how to navigate through a child's life. So restorative.
So they're having to be adults.
Exactly.
As children, and they haven't had the experience or they don't have the maturity by which to.
Right.
And so it teaches them how the understanding about the why they did what they did, but also teaches them how to navigate beyond that behavior.
Right.
Okay.
In hopes that they will be able to, not necessarily, and I tell them all the time, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for progress.
That's good. Not looking for perfection. People, can we use that?
Yes, because we need it.
We do.
We use restorative practices in our building, not just for our children, but for our adults.
Right.
Adults get a chance to have reset. They can go into a bathroom. They can go into their office, their classrooms. They have planning, but they have nobody. And they get a chance to reset. Our children don't. The bell rings, they go to the next class. And immediately it's the same thing, different teacher.
Yes.
Okay. Or sometimes it's not the same thing. It's a teacher that did not get a chance to reset, did not have their own restorative, conversation that morning. So then they have to then take on their energy on top of the energy that they brought into the room.
And that's when it bubbles over and you have this explosive behavior.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So do you think with your time, you said you've been working with restorative practices for 3 years in your school. Mm-hmm. Do you think our relationships can be restored?
because we're such a positive person, I want to say yes.
Yeah.
But realistically, no. I don't think that every single one, but that because especially when you're talking about middle school children.
Oh,
Middle school children are at such a funny developmental age.
they are.
They do not have the cognition to be able to understand when, where, and why. And what happens if I don't?
And that emotional regulation too is
That is so much.
Yeah.
For our kiddos. So I think that by giving them the tools in the future, yes, I think that they would be able to restore. And if you work with some of your other students to give them these extra tools, like coaching, the coaching side of restorative, then they can take those tools and teach others to do them.
You keep using the word tools.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the tools that you're giving them?
So I'm giving them tools to recognize what happens when your body is not regulated. What does that feel like? Do your shoulders get tight? Do you start stuttering? Do you lose your words?
So you're basically teaching them to be cognizant of their personal self.
Yes.
And so in the restorative approach, if they are cognizant with their personal self, they may not get to the point to damage a relationship to have to restore it.
Correct. Or even if they damage it, they know their part and
They know their
protect.
why.
That's right.
Mhm.
So if they know that, because a lot of times the kids say, well, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. They started it. Okay. So they might have started it, but how did you keep it going?
How did you keep it going?
Yeah.
That's still the wrong thing.
Yes.
So what part do you think social media plays in this?
90% of so much, especially now with AI. And I love AI. I simply love AI. However, because
What does AI got to do with this?
AI can now take a conversation that you and I are having.
Yes.
Okay. They can alter our lips. And they can say what they want you to say. Post
So
it
you're
on
telling
their
me,
page.
you're telling me our children are intuitive enough
Yes.
to go on AI, give me new lips and new words, and post them as my own.
Yes. And when someone is reading your lips, they have gotten so good that it almost looks exactly like what you're saying. They can take this podcast and do this right now.
No, don't put AI over my lips, okay? Don't do that. Not nice.
I have seen it happen. I've also seen where they have taken objects and put in students' hands. And then they use, you remember the DC, not Marvel, but the DC, boom, pam, pow.
Yeah.
They take those words and put them onto the picture. So it gives a false sense that this person is talking about you.
That is insane. So, like, if you do that to me, let's say we're in school and these things happen, and you, as my principal, come and say, hey, Shaunne and Thais, we're going to have a mediation so that we can restore this conversation. We're going to restore this relationship. I know both of you have been wrong, but we want you to leave here feeling whole. How does that go most of the time?
It takes some time to get through, and you really sometimes have to clear your schedule. If you think that you're going to go in and restore any middle school, at least, situation in 13 seconds, it will not happen.
But I think this is probably not just about middle school. It's probably about all people.
Oh, absolutely.
It takes time for everybody to be heard, right?
Yep, and they want to be heard. Then they have a rebuttal. And then they want to bring in, but they said, she said, I didn't do. So you talked about social media. The social media platforms that are put out there that we cannot control.
Right.
They're out there by, I don't know. Okay. They call them their spam pages.
Oh, spam sucks.
Yes.
Because they go to spam to sneak this, as we used to call it, their friends. So they'll say it's not me.
That's right.
This is my authentic page. But baby, we know you got a fake page.
That's right.
Your fake page. Give me access to the fake page.
That's right.
Okay.
So then we take this conversation between Thais and Shaunne, and we have to first decide and have them talk about what's real and what's fake. How do you know that it's real and how do you know that it's fake? Okay. Then that usually helps us out with he say, she say, drama.
But on children truly able to engage in this process and have a positive outcome?
Absolutely. Even some of my babies that are 3 and 4 grade levels behind, they can talk. They might not be able to write their side of the story, but they can definitely talk through it. The problem comes in when you start talking about what should happen next time. That's when you start to see where our kids are lacking.
Because they're not truly able to understand how they can correct the behavior.
And they also, it's a future thing. When you use the word future, our students have continuously shown me that future means at 4:45.
So that's a minute from now.
Right.
Yeah. So they're because life is so instant for them.
That's right.
The way they have their cell phones and their iPads, they really don't understand the concept of later on.
That's right.
Everything happens for them in the moment. So they want instant gratification in the moment. Mm-hmm. They want to get the revenge in the moment.
That's
so
right.
When you're talking about let's restore something after you wronged me the other day, right now I'm still in the moment.
That's right. And they've talked about that so much. So what am I supposed to do with the anger that I have right now? I said, and I showed them a time, I have a video, and I showed them a time when something like that happened to me. And they said, how did you walk away? I said, oh, I'm human. I walked away with displaced emotions. I wanted to curse. I wanted to do all types of things right then. And then I remembered I'm a professional. I'm a mother. And then I automatically start thinking about if I do this now, in this moment, it may make me feel better. But will I lose my job?
That's good.
Will somebody have me on video?
Ability.
That's right.
That's the scary part.
That is scary.
So not. Unfortunately, I think, like we talk about, social media has its positives and its negatives. I think when we grew up, the world was not at our fingertips. And they now can see the world at their fingertips. And so they live in the now that they don't understand. Like we tell kids all the time, don't post nudes on social media or share pics because that may come up 10 years from now. They don't think past this moment.
10 years from now is too far away.
Too far away. That's why I'm interested. I mean, I know restorative practices work.
Mm-hmm.
We've done some really great work with Trying Restorative Justice Project, doing the circles with students. But how does it work with adults and the depersonalization piece?
So with adults, bringing them in, they are immediately apologetic most times. But that's not what I want. I want you to talk through what happened. Mm-hmm. So we have a saying at our school that we call it 50 first dates. And it's just like the movie. It doesn't matter how someone wronged you on Sunday. When you walk back through that door on Monday, we're starting over. It's over. It is over. The kids have adopted that motto more so than the adults.
Wow. So the kids are able to let it go. Let it go. Well, recover, as we learned in the last segment. They're able to recover and move forward.
Yep.
Quicker than the adults.
Yes.
Because we hold on to it.
Their resilience is different.
Is that adult to student or adult to adult?
Adult to student. Adult to adult. After we bring one together or one with us just to talk through some things, because we have to do temperature checks just to make sure, is this the day
when you
that we need to bring them
temperature
together?
Checks? What do you mean? Because the world may not know it.
That is correct. So temperature checks would be, I'm bringing you in just to get your thought process between that particular instance. And if you are not able to carefully monitor and regulate your emotions and your words, this is not the time to bring your colleague in front of us.
So you're saying, let's say Shaunne and Thais are adults and we had a disagreement about something at work. The other person has to first make sure that I'm at a point to be able to sit respectfully in a space with you and vice versa before we're able to have a restorative conversation.
That's correct.
Because it doesn't mean it happens in the moment, right? That just means it has to happen at some point.
It does need to happen within some point. And we have a 24-hour rule because we need to make sure that it happens. Because after 24 hours, life happens at a rapid speed. We can't forget this because we spend more time with our colleagues most time than we spend with our family.
We do.
So we don't have to be best friends. But we do need to be cordial, we need to be professional, and we need to be respectful in the building because the kids are watching us at all times.
And they're learning from what we do.
Absolutely.
Which is critical.
Absolutely.
So I like the part that you said 24-hour rule for restoration.
That's right.
That is amazing because some people may think we'll get around to it eventually.
Right.
But you put that time frame in there so that it just doesn't become forgotten.
Correct.
Because when something else happened, it compounds, which is what you said. That's right. There are always catalysts before the blow up happens.
That's right. And that's with the adults. With the children, it needs, unless it is at the end of the day and they are not staying for after school activities, that conversation happens that day because they're children.
Now, this is a hard one. Okay, parents aren't always agreeable when they come into schools. Unfortunately, parents are advocates for their children, regardless of how right or how wrong they are, right? And that's the role of a parent. They're going to believe, a lot of them, I'm not saying that everyone,
right?
They are going to come and they're going to, be protecting their baby.
That's right.
So in that, sometimes parents may wrong staff and staff may wrong parents. How do you go about reconciling that relationship?
So, well, first, we also do temperature checks with parents. And then at the same time, we make sure that that adult in the building is ready to come have a conversation with a parent.
Well, that's good.
So, and we let the parent know this is going to be your baby's teacher. So we need to really, really just talk through this and respect each other. If I don't get that, they don't get a chance to talk. Now, sometimes, when you bring people in, tables can turn very quickly, and it starts off very respectful. And then because emotions are attached to all humans,
amen,
we tend to act on our emotions. When that happens, immediately, I will stop the conversation and excuse the adult. We have codes over the walkie. We use a walkie code. And they know that whenever this happens with our adults in the building, they go straight from there to student services or to one of the assistant principal's office because they have to reset.
So you have a code that even when your adults are at a place that they can't be restored in that moment, that they have a supportive mechanism within your building. That's phenomenal that you value your adults in your building that much, because I think the adult emotional regulation and ability to be able to restore relationships is just as critical as a student among students.
That's right.
Because if your adult is broken and they've got to serve kids, that's not a great place for them to be. Because it seems like simple stuff can set them off in the moment. Like today I need a pencil, where every day I need a pencil. You gave me one, but today me needing a pencil rubbed you the wrong way.
That's right. Because you broke my pencil from yesterday, and now I don't want to give you another pencil. But they know Principal Hall said, give them a pencil.
Give them a pencil. But I think that is really critical, because I think that in this role of being a public servant, that people forget that we're humans.
That's right.
Right. And so the same way they have emotions, we have emotions, but the professionalism has to precede every action we take.
It does. And that is hard for all adults, especially when we're working with children who come in emotionally charged.
Yeah.
And we want the best for them. However, 35 kids came to school. I have 34 desks. I'm already now irritated because I have to ask for a desk. I'm irritated from last year because everybody didn't do their exit ticket. So we remind the adults that I need you all to already know how to use the tools in your toolbox. So we use the toolbox for everything. Sometimes you will hear the student say 51st dates. You will hear the student say, use your toolbox. If you need somebody, please, by all means, even if you need to go in your car. Sometimes they need to go home for the day.
And when they do that, and let's say they need a moment away, how does that work? Because they still have children for the rest of the day.
They do still have children. So a lot of times we are thankful to have a builder-based sub. And sometimes we'll move that builder-based sub into the room. If the class size is small, especially for encore time, we go in and we tell the kids, let's choose a different class today.
So when you say encore, everybody may not know.
Elective classes. Let's take it all the way back to when we were in school. Electives.
So that's your
that's your band, that's your art, PE. Yes, those elective classes, and they're 45 minutes.
Oh, that's good.
So that's actually twofold also, because a student might not know that they want to take this particular CTE class unless they're in the class.
They're in there.
If they're not in the class, they just know that that teacher teaches that class behind that door. So then once they get a chance to go in there, they're like, oh, I had fun in there. That's right.
To that. Now, does restorative practices in schools take the place of in-school suspension and out-of-school suspensions?
Does it take the place? It can sometimes curb, because by the time if we have a great restorative circle with a group of, 6 girls, guess what happens? They don't go to ISS.
That's good.
They don't go to
because we're able to solve the issue.
Because we were able to solve
girls
the issue.
are the hardest, honey.
Woo.
Like that might take half your day.
It does. It does. So and sometimes depending on who it is, we have to set a timer in the middle of the thing. Okay, so we'll have a timer. You're gonna get 2 minutes.
Okay.
And then you
That's
can't
a good strategy.
No repeating.
That's a good strategy.
So once we do that, it gets us through. And sometimes we just have to agree to not only disagree, but sometimes, yes, it is.
Agreeing to disagree.
Yes.
It's hard.
That's
even for adults.
That's right.
So I can imagine that is extremely difficult for children because on the high school side, they're now at the point that they're like, okay, we can agree to disagree, but I still don't like what you did. Right?
That's right.
And I'm like, well, I appreciate that you were able to put it in those kinds of words.
That's right.
But it's taken a lot of time to get them there, right? So that's a difficult thing to do.
It is. And you have to teach that. You can't expect an 11 to 14-year-old to understand what that looks like if they've never been taught. So we teach them, okay, look, we have gone around the table twice and everybody has talked. Not once, but twice.
Yeah.
So now we are still at the point where you don't like her. She doesn't like you.
And that's okay.
What? None of you all are in the same class.
It's okay not to like people.
That's right.
World, we don't have to like everyone, but what we must do is respect people and their differences.
And learn to coexist.
That's a great word.
The kids often ask me when we get to that point, so you like everybody in your building?
And you have to say, I do.
I say, I respect everybody in my building.
That's good.
I said, but liking, am I getting ready to go out with them to go to eat?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
However, them coming in, I'm going to always speak
and be kind.
That's right.
And respectful.
That's right. And if they need me, I'm going to be there.
And empathetic. I think that shows the empathy that we are working through social emotional learning and restorative practices. We're teaching our kids empathy.
Yes.
Because although we're different, we still have things that are alike. And we have to respect each other's differences.
Yes. Empathy is huge.
Yeah.
And I think the earlier we begin to teach those practices, the better off we will be. You can't curb adolescence.
No.
You can't curb sometimes the lifestyle that they have outside of the school. But empathy goes a long way.
And you can really see. So 3 years ago, when you started this journey of restorative practices to now, what does your building look and feel like?
Oh my gosh, the systems and structures throughout the building are amazing.
Yeah.
So they're coming in, they're even quoting 50 First Dates. You see teachers standing at the door, but standing at the door with a smile. Just because I told them, yes, they are saying good morning. They feel comfortable giving a kid that really needs a hug that morning. You see them doing fist pounds, that is relationship building. And then when you come into the classroom and you fuss at Thais for not having a pencil, she knows that it's coming from her. That's right.
Yes.
That is coming
and that makes all the difference.
That's right. So that helps out so much. And now on the adult side, they're standing. But they understand now, when you're giving homework and Shaunne didn't come in with her homework, guess what? You know Shaunne's story. Shaunne is homeless, and Shaunne has everything that she owns in her book bag.
It's so horrific that so many of our children have to deal with such traumatic things at such an early age, right? And they walk into the door of these buildings every day carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Yes.
And then we expect, as educators, for them to care about math, science, social studies, history, ELA, whatever it is we're teaching. We want them to totally tune into that. But first, we've got to let them get their past from behind them for the night.
Yeah.
And we do that by making the space safe. Yeah, so making a safe space for them. Because I know some of the experiences that I hear from my children and that I help them navigate. As an adult, it's hard for me to sit in them. When they walk out the door, I have to cry because it's horrific that children have to live through some of these things.
Right.
And we're teaching them all these skills, but sometimes, unfortunately, they haven't seen them in their lives at home.
That's
or
right.
their experience.
That's right. And I'm glad you said that, because one of my students told me last year, before he actually transferred, I'm glad y'all keep doing this. This was his gesture. I'm glad y'all keep doing all that restorative stuff. But until you come into my neighborhood and restore my neighborhood, it's hard for me to comprehend everything that you're telling me. From a middle school 7th grade student.
That's deep.
And I'm not a crier, but I got a chance. I have a bathroom in my office. I went into my bathroom, leaned on the wall, and just cried. Because what you know is, and what I told them, baby, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and pretend like I can come into your neighborhood and restore it to the point that you feel it is, and restored. I said, but what I can do, and I gave him a school system Band-Aid. I said, I want you to put that school system Band-Aid on. And then I rubbed some hand sanitizer on it and it came right off. I said, so truthfully, let me let you know what I can do. I can put a school system Band-Aid on your wounds every day, and I can work with you from 7 until 2 o'clock. When that school system Band-Aid comes off, you come back to me every single morning, and I'm going to put another Band-Aid on you, and I'm going to help you get through this day.
That's beautiful, Shaunne. Think about the impact, even though he left you, that will carry for him in his next relationships. And I think that for me as a principal, serving my children and making them feel safe, making them feel heard. And I tell them often, you don't have to become where you're from. And I truly believe that education is the pathway to prosperity. Although systems in place currently are trying to make it more difficult for children to be educated. But I do believe it's a pathway to prosperity, because without an education, there's so little that they can do. And poverty is a true thing. And it's not something that you can just come out of with money.
That's right.
It's money and education and someone helping to coach you and navigate and teach you these systems and these tools, as you call it. Tough times are going to continue to come.
They sure will.
Right? And so if I don't have tools in my toolbox, I'm going to always be back at the same place. But I'm forward thinking enough to know that until I learn to overcome it the right way, I'm going to continue to be faced with it.
That's right.
Right. And so what I'm hearing you say is that at your school, you guys have adopted a policy and a practice that is really about understanding your children, your adults in the building, where they're from, and teaching them how to not let something that was a setback set you back.
That's right. And taking our students, our highest flying students, and pairing them up with 3 different people in the building, because things like now, it's flu season. So many people are out. They have to have a go-to person. So if Shaunne isn't here, you go to Thais. If Thais isn't here.
So you have each student has almost 3 mentors?
Has 3 people that they can go to and talk to. And sometimes they need a strategy. And we let people know, because there are about 10 students per grade level.
So let me pause you.
Okay.
You said high-flying students. You're not talking about academically high-flying students, right?
Correct.
You're talking about behavior discipline. That's high flyers.
Yes.
So you're 10% of your population. I got you. Okay.
Yes. And it's so important. Those students look for those adults, and we typically have them choose one on each floor. So just in case.
It's a great idea.
And it helps out. We have that information with every admin. So we know, phenomenal. Because if we see an 8th grader on the 2nd floor, what are you doing here? Oh, that's right. You're going to see. Okay. So we clear them to go on through. And the only thing they have to do is find a safe place to go talk to. And sometimes it's walking around outside school.
And have you seen that decrease your discipline?
Absolutely. It has cut it in half.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. We just looked at discipline, and all of our numbers are cut in half. It is amazing.
Way to go.
It is amazing.
You and your staff. That's phenomenal to be able to say that.
I will say it is very, the restorative practices helps out with our children and our adults. What it also does, though, is it pulls out the adult traumas that have happened. And we tell people all the time, an escalated person can de-escalate an escalated person.
Oh, that's good. So an escalated person cannot de-escalate
an escalated
person.
So they have to realize if a student just told you something that has you so perplexed that you're unable to speak or unable to speak in a positive tone, you need to tag. And we talk about playing, wrestling. You got to tag out. You have to call somebody else, because we want to help that student in that moment as much as possible, because they have to go do integers. They have to go and read and talk about context clues, all of these different things that they have to get ready for. But then sometimes we have to, like we talked about the temperature checks with adults, adults have to be regulated before you go back into the classroom. You can't, your eyes are all red because you've been crying.
Yes.
And then you're going into the room and the students are going to ask you. And sometimes our students take on our emotions.
They do.
And our feelings.
Because they care about it.
That's right.
Even though they don't always show it, they do care about
They
it.
do. They do.
Yeah.
They bless us out all the time. And then they come back to us and
they
say,
want to
"I
go
love you so much.
Yeah. Where have you been?
You really like that? I can tell."
Well,
Thank you.
I think that is really critical because we forget sometimes often that we're also humans.
Mhm.
And so as a leader
Yes.
in a highly impacted environment, being a female, a wife, a mother, and all the things that you are, how do you handle when someone wrongs you? And how does that depersonalization impact you?
I think that I do good with compartmentalizing so much and understanding. We've been educators for a long time. We've been at low performing schools.
Yes.
So I don't want to say that it becomes normal for me because I don't want it, but sometimes it does
become normal.
But sometimes it does.
But that's an unfortunate occurrence, right? Because you're so used to dealing with a trauma that you don't know how not to navigate that because you're always looking to solve a problem and to fix something because and you're waiting for the next thing to happen.
I am. And I can almost go back and say, okay, so I did this one this way. So I used this strategy, and then I was able to give this resource. Okay, what's next? And that's what becomes scary. So sometimes what I do though, when it has just been a super heavy day, I call on my colleagues. And sometimes it's to the point where I have to tap out.
Yeah.
And
that's okay for us to say.
That's right.
And I think that's hard because we're so worried about protecting and taking care of everybody else that we don't want to say, I need a moment.
Yes.
I need to tap out. This is too much for me right now in this moment.
I will be back.
Yeah.
But I need a moment. And I can't tell you how long that moment is going to be. I can't, and I can't always set a timer.
Yeah.
Unless I have a meeting to go to or something else.
Because life is so happening.
That's right.
You have somewhere else.
Or that walkie goes off and you're really needed in a place. But sometimes just recognizing that you're there is a lot.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't become so normal for you. You don't want it.
You don't. So then how do you take care of you?
I get up way too early, so I go to sleep way too early. I'm in the bed by 8:30.
8:30, Shaunne.
Yes.
How are you even home? Dinner cooked, dishes washed. Like, do you watch TV?
I don't watch TV.
Oh my gosh! So you don't watch CSI, FBI
on weekends only? I don't get time because I wake up at 4 o'clock. I wake up at 4 o'clock.
Oh, that's criminal.
And then
I would need to be restored every day if I had to get up at 4 a.m.
So I get up, I read my email, I look and see how many people are going to be out, make that plan, and then I go work out.
So so self-care for you is working out.
It is.
So you work out 5 days a week?
I work out 4 days a week.
4 days a week.
Mm-hmm. I'm either swimming, I have a pool in the backyard. Thank God to arthritis.
But it's cold outside.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, so heated pool.
It is.
Okay, because I was like, who's swimming? All right, girl. Educators do have some money.
Yeah.
Shaunne has a heated pool, guys. Oh my gosh. Like we're all gonna come to your house.
Yes.
You can get a prescription pool?
Absolutely.
Oh, ain't God good. I learned something new in here.
Yes.
I didn't know that. They can get a pool by prescription.
That's right.
I gotta get a good doctor.
That's right. Get a good doctor and get that installed in the backyard. And then just throughout the day, I find it funny.
You like to laugh.
I do. I love to laugh.
Laughter joy.
Laughter is my joy. And when I just can't find it, I have students that I can go to.
Yeah.
And or I have teachers where I just know for a fact I can go sit in that class and I'm going to laugh.
That's good.
And sometimes just that laughter reminds you that the incident that you just went through wasn't that bad.
Because this work is heavy.
It is.
It is such a thankless job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people, which is why this podcast was so important to me, because I really do believe that people have their concept and ideas of what's happening in school.
Right.
But what they don't know is that numbers are just numbers. It doesn't give you a true picture of all of the love, the energy, and the work that is going into this. But when you're dealing with humans, they're not robots that can be programmed. They bring their experiences, they bring their life issues and their challenges into this space, along with me and my childhood trauma and my life experiences and every other person in this space. And so we're all trying to be in this one space, but work towards a common goal, right? And the common goal is to improve educational outcomes for each and every student every day. And that's not hard. That's not easy to do.
It is not.
And so you find yourself that you're in a restorative process of relationships more often than not, I'm sure.
And you're having to switch your strategies because what just worked with that group of 8 girls may not work. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work with this group that's coming in right behind them.
Yeah.
So you have to quickly adjust, shift, and then be ready for the next group that's coming in. Because everybody now expects, because now they see this group of 8 girls, they're no longer, at each other's throat.
Yeah.
They're not all smiling. So now this next group coming in wants that same
outcome. And you have the magic wand to make it happen. I love it.
I try.
So thank you so much for joining me today. Is there something you want people to know about restorative practices? And if you do, this is your time to look at the camera and tell them about it, but also tell them where they can follow you, because you're doing amazing things at the school that you serve. And I think this is a great way for people to make connections and to ask questions, and then to also see some of the work in action, right? You have 3 years of data to support that restorative practice is a positive thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't remove that kids are going to still have discipline. Right. But what we're trying to do is teach them that because something happened, I don't have to stay stuck there.
That's right.
I can put some things in place, have some conversations, and we all can move on to greater.
That's right.
So share your words.
So I will say restorative practices will work. However, you have to be patient. You have to be intentional. You have to be empathetic. And you have to be authentic, especially when working with children. Children will see right through you if you are not authentically your true self. Once you are true to them, their guard will begin to diminish, not all the way, because I said patience is first. So you have to continue to work at that. And you can follow me at Shaunne B. Hall, SHAUNNE, on LinkedIn.
Shaunne, you're just on LinkedIn? You're not on like Instagram or like Twitter or like none of those other things?
The school is on Twitter.
We're not following the school.
Yes. Social media.
Shaunne, so we've got to be like hip, and you've got to get like on social media. So we're going to work on that. Okay. We're going to do that. And that's coming from someone who is so new to all of this, but I'm having a blast. So since we're talking about being authentic and transparent and in touch with yourself, today I'm wearing a shirt that says 100% organic made. Is that not what it says?
Yes.
Organic made.
Mm-hmm.
And this is by at JONNYKAINE.FNA. He's a North Carolina producer and makes really cool things. And so I think it is a really great way to share things also that people are doing. And he's young and innovative. And I think we need to tap into the creativity of our youth because they're the voice. And I think what better way than, we're talking about all this authenticity and this transparency. That means that we're being organically ourselves.
Sure.
And when you are organically yourself, you truly have impact. It's not an easy place to get to, and it requires a lot of work because you first have to spend time with yourself. You have to really be reflective. And yes, the reflection part for us as adults is hard. Right. And you have to be okay with people correcting you, right? Because that's not easy as well. Right. But we hope that you gained something from your time with us today. Shaunne, I really appreciate you spending time with me. Oh, you can come anytime you want to. Follow me at EDUN 2theMax. Again, I appreciate you. I hope to see you soon. Remember, stay real.